Happy New Year. You know, everybody wants to know what 2022 is going to look like in terms of real estate. Do I buy now? Do I wait? Are prices going up? Are prices coming down? What do I do? And so in this video, I want to answer those questions and cover a little bit more so you can make really good decisions for yourself. Hi, I'm Jill Thomas, and each week I bring new videos about what it's like to live here in the beautiful Sunshine State. I give you more details about what the Sarasota and Bradenton area is like, and of course I talk about real estate. So if you have been thinking about making a move, or maybe you just like to watch all of these great videos, then this is the channel for you. Be sure to tap that subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and keep watching. But then when you have more questions, when you're trying to figure out what's the next best move to make, then give me a call, text, or email me. I'm here to help. Today I had a couple of people call me that were new to me, and they both said, "Oh, you picked up the phone, you answered." And I said, "Well, of course, I'm happy to answer. As long as I'm not with other folks or making a video or something like that, then yeah, I absolutely do try to grab as many calls as I can as they come in." Wow, 2021 brought a lot of changes, some different ways of handling real estate. And I started using terms and things I've only heard about in theory, but never really had to practice, like escalation clauses, waiving appraisal contingencies. Of course, we dealt with multiple offers, properties going well over list price, like most of the properties going over list price, writing lots of different offers before a buyer can get a house under contract. We also dealt with waiting on new construction, just waiting to get a property under contract and then waiting for the house to be completed. So there has been some really great victories in this last year, and there has certainly been some challenges. And so people want to know, when is this going to change? Is 2022 going to bring the same thing? Now, in this video, I definitely did a lot of charts and used a lot of numbers. So if you're liking that, then I think you'll appreciate it. If you're like, well, I want to know these answers, Jill, but I'm not really a chart and numbers person, don't sweat it. I tried to break it down, kept it pretty simple, just to help you guys out, just to understand sort of what's happening right now. The teacher in me has come out, and I do like to keep it pretty basic so then everybody can understand. And then for those who really enjoy it, if you want to, I can get you those charts and things, and you can dig in a little deeper and do some of your own research too. Number one, where are we now? Okay, so now before we can really talk about the future, let's talk about what the market looks like right now and kind of a little bit of the past and how we got here. Now, this last summer, I did a really deep dive with some of these charts, and I went back a lot farther. This time I just went back to November 2018. So right now I'm going to jump over to a different platform so I can show you these charts so you can just kind of get some ideas of what's happening. Okay, let's have some fun with charts. So in this section right now that we're going to cover, everything's here brought to you by the Florida Association of Realtors. It's a handy little system I have access to where I can go back pretty far on some of these. Now I'm only going to go back into the fall of 2018 on this, and it's going to cover Northport, Sarasota, and Bradenton. Now, for some reason, the powers that be, when they talk about our whole area, basically Sarasota and Manatee Counties, they always put Northport first. And I think it's because they said that Northport's a larger land mass in some of these, so that's how they differentiate that. But honestly, we get more action definitely in Sarasota and Bradenton as for sure. So that's why it's listed like that. So first, we're going to talk about our new listings. So currently, right now in November of 2021, because our December stats haven't come out yet, and I want to get this video done, we just have just over 2,000 new listings. Now keep that in mind, that number, because at 2,000 mark, we're going to talk about that quite often. Now last year in the spring, when everybody was pretty unsure about COVID and wasn't sure what's happening, our new listings dipped below 2,000, and of course prior to that we had over 3,000, a few times as well. Right before COVID, here in January, it's usually where we see more listings come on the market. We definitely had uptick in there, and that actually was January of 2019 right there as well. And then January of last year, Again, we were around 2,000, so we'll see what this January brings. So those are our new listings. So keep that in mind. Now we're going to jump to active inventory. And as you can see, we have this nice little roller coaster ride. Looks like a hill you would want to sled on, right? Again, these peaks come at the beginning of season. Here it's in January. Here again, January, February, March. Last year before COVID hit, and then it just all slid down. And again, now we're here just below 2,000 properties between Sarasota and Manatee Counties. So the last video was new listings, just over 2,000, active inventory just below 2,000. So that says a lot. That's not a whole lot of properties for us to look at. All right, our next slide is new pending sales. So these are properties that go under contract. And again, let's just jump to November of 2021. It is just over 2,000 properties. So we can see it's pretty consistent there between new inventory, active properties, and what is going under contract. Now, previously, the fall of 2019, it was just over 1,000. So you can see that the demand is certainly there. But, if there was more inventory, honestly, I think there'd be more pending sales. It only makes sense. And then again, you always see this jump in our winter months, as people are down here. And then here's last year, 2021, that jump again. And it was very strong last year, right before COVID, even stronger than the previous years, in spite of really not having a lot of inventory. Because remember that last slide, I showed how it kept going down, down, down. And so everything has really dried up. All right, our next one is closed sales. And again, we'll go right down here to November. Just over 2,000 properties. So basically, whatever is on the market, I think, is what is going to go under contract. I mean, those numbers are going to stay pretty consistent. So that's what actually is closed, where people were able to get the keys and move in. But look, March of this year, people were pretty motivated. I mean, it's way higher than the last year's, in like July, or no, not July, but in 2019, prior to COVID. I mean, look at that. It's crazy. So here was our peak then. Here's our most recent peak, over 3,000. So I think it's very telling. Okay, this next one is kind of fun. The month's supply of inventory. And you'll see this a lot in statistics, the stats that our board of realtors put out, things like that. So here is our month supply of inventory. Now, if it was 6 months of inventory, that is considered a balanced buyer-seller market. Really anywhere between even 5 months and 7 months. That's pretty decent. So, but here now, we're at 4.5 months, over 5, and then we just continue to drop. And now we are well under 1 month of inventory. Now, what does that really mean? Okay, first of all, it means it's a seller's market. And less than 1 month is saying that based on how much inventory we have and based on the demand, so really based on the supply and demand, that if no new listings came on the market right now, all of our inventory would dry up in less than a month, probably 2.5, 3 weeks. So that is pretty amazing. Again, if you are looking to sell, now is the time, a great time to do it, because of course prices are up and there's very little competition. You can go under contract quickly. So less than 1 month of inventory is mind-blowing. I just can't believe it. So it is just major dropped right here. Crazy. Okay, this is another really good one, the median time to contract. So how long does it take from the time a property goes live in the MLS to it going under contract? How many days? So historically, here's over 40 days. In 2019, it was, 60 days. Again, last year during that peak of COVID, where there was a lot of uncertainty, it took over 60 days. And then it just dropped like a rock, just crazy here how long it takes. Now it's maybe, 6, 7, 8 days is what they're saying. But honestly, I think it's probably could even be way less. And the reason why sometimes it takes a little longer could be because when you list the property, you might be getting offers right away, but sometimes a seller will say, hey, let it sit on the market for just a couple more days. I want to make sure that everybody gets their offers in, and they can be picky. They can pick and choose and wait. And the sellers call the shots right now. Or sometimes too, there's companies that own properties, not banks, but companies. And sometimes they don't work on the weekends. It takes them longer to respond. So sometimes those are delays there too. And it's just kind of the nature of the beast with those sellers. So right now, median time to contract from when you first list it is just days. And so as a buyer, that says you don't have really a whole lot of time to sleep on it. You can't say, oh, this property came on the market on a Wednesday. I'm going to fly down this weekend and take a look at it in person. If you do that, you're going to miss out. Okay, the next one, we're going to talk about cash sales as a percentage of closed sales. And what does that mean? It means how many properties, what's the percentage of cash buyers out there? So currently right now, it is close to 50% right here. In fact, in May, I believe it came very close to 50%. Now back here in 2018, it was closer to 40, even dropped down a bit. I think even for our market, this is more average right here. If I were to go back, let's say, 8 or 10 years, if I recall correctly, it was still always 30, 40%, but now it's definitely closer to 50%. And often when there's multiple offers, people always say cash is king. And for a person getting financing, it can be very discouraging because you look, oh my goodness, half the buyers are paying cash. But let's be a glass is half full kind of people here. And let's think of it this way. Hey, it's still less than 50%. So you've got a chance. I mean, if it was like 70%, that's when it gets really scary. But right now it's still under 50% of the purchases, are cash. So you do have hope to get a property if you are financing. So don't give up quite yet. The next one is median percent of original list price. Now, what does that mean exactly? Okay, it is what is the list to sale price ratio on average? So how, are the properties closing for close to list price, farther from list price? Well, as you can see, here's 100%, and here's this line from the last several years, and that's the way it's been for quite a while, just under 100%. But now you see it is right on the money. And honestly, I would suspect it's even more than that. Some months, I can't say for certain, but it's definitely been a little tough lately. Now, when I first got licensed in 2008, it was more like 85%, and sellers would say, oh, I need to leave room for negotiations. I want to price a little higher. But now for sellers, you have to be careful because I know you want to get as much as you can, but at the same time, don't go too crazy because you might turn off some potential buyers who are willing to, pay good money for your property. So right now, if a buyer thinks, many buyers think, well, I have to come in at list price or higher. And if you overprice the house, then they're going to go, okay, well, it's already pretty high. For me to go even above that is very discouraging. And so it might be difficult for some people to swallow that. So just be careful with that when you're thinking about pricing a property. And here is what everybody always wants to know. What are the sale prices looking like? So median sale price is now pushing $400,000. Now remember, when we're looking at all these statistics, it's for both Sarasota and Manatee Counties. So you're talking, this includes Lakewood Ranch, downtown Sarasota, everything out on the Keys and the water, west of the trail, luxury properties. But then also you've got areas like Northport, which historically has been our more affordable areas, or Palmetto, Parish, things like that. But before, 2 years ago, you could buy really a cute house in Northport for around $200,000, $220,000, even $180,000 maybe. But now that's getting more difficult to do. They're definitely hitting the 300 plus mark. So that's what's pushing up this number to go a little bit higher. So even though you see the median sale price is $400,000, you still have to kind of scale it back and think, what am I really going to get for that money? It could be a lovely property depending on where you're at, or it kind of could be a little bit more scruffy, need some work and some help if you're in a super desirable area. Okay, I know I talked a lot with all of those charts and numbers, but I think it's really important for you to see that, to kind of put things into perspective and kind of step back and see a bigger picture. Now you might think, well, how did we get here? Like, why all of a sudden did all these numbers drop like they did? Well, certainly COVID played a role in that, because people got scared, like, okay, what do I do? And now that those numbers have fallen, people are nervous about selling a house because they think, well, where will I go? So unless they have somebody they can move into, or they know of a place they can certainly rent at an affordable rate, or maybe they already have a second home, that makes them very nervous. So that's part of the reason why we're sort of in a little bit of a holding pattern right now. And then of course, the demand's high for coming to Florida and coming to our area. People are starting to really realize, wow, we don't pay state income tax here in Florida. Of course, it's a beautiful place to live year round. You're getting away from the snow. And as people are able to work remotely, they're really trying to explore all these options of where they can go. So that's sort of where we're at right now. And a lot of this we can say about other areas in the country too. It's not going to just be exclusive to Florida. There is a draw for people to move to other parts of the country as well. So that's where people are coming from, thinking about, but then again, they're afraid to sell that home somewhere else and take the plunge, because they come to a new location and then where it was a benefit for them as a seller in another part of the country, then it's a challenge wherever they're going to move to. So now you say, yeah, Jill, I already get that. I kind of already, even if I didn't know all the exact numbers, I understood the squeeze that's on these buyers. I get all that. So what do I do in 2022? Where is it going? What choices do I make? Okay, so now let's get into that, into the next phase or part 2 of this video. Next, I want to cover a couple of questions that I get on a regular basis, where people are asking that in hopes that it's an indicator that the market's going to adjust a little bit to help buyers out. So point number 2 is the question, will the market be flooded with foreclosures in the next year? Well, long story short, I would say the answer is no. So of course, because of COVID, there was a lot of people who were not paying their mortgage for one reason or another, and they were permitted to maybe by the lender. They were going through some type of forbearance program, but now most of those people have resolved their issues with the lender in some form or another. And that could have been, maybe they remodified the loan, maybe there was a forgiveness, maybe there's a deferment, meaning they just tack on the missed payments to the end of the mortgage, things like that. So right now, those folks aren't super distressed. We're not seeing a lot because of that. The other thing too, of course, is with property values being so high that somebody could sell their property right now, and they're most likely they're just not underwater based on the property values and maybe what they owe on their mortgage. And then the other thing too is the Mortgage Bankers of America. I've been doing a lot of research with them. Here's one of my articles that I found with them, that even in the third quarter of 2021, that the number of properties that are over 90 days past due are very, very low. It's at a low point right now. And so that's a good thing for buyers. So we're happy for that, for homeowners, that they're able to pay their mortgage. That's a good thing. Now for future buyers, might be a discouragement, just because, not that, of course, we're hoping that anybody loses their home. That's just a terrible thing right now, especially when it's hard to even maybe find an affordable rental, but it's not going to ease up, I don't think, the market right now. Now, real quick, I want to show you another slide about showing the history of those distressed properties, or people who are behind on those mortgage payments. Let me show that to you real quick. Okay, another chart I wanted to show you has to do with this mortgage delinquency rate and then the unemployment rate. And this is brought to us by the Mortgage Bankers of America, I believe Mortgage Bankers Association. Sorry about that. And it goes back pretty far, back into the 80s. Now, the blue line that you see right here at the bottom has to do with loans that are past due. And then the orange line has to do with unemployment rates. So as you can see, it really jumps out over here in 2020, this unemployment rate right here. But for mortgage delinquency, it certainly went up, but not in the same way as like it did back here in 2010, 2011, when we started to see all those short sales coming on board back then. But we can also see now too that as much as this spiked, it quickly dropped, and now the 4.88% in terms of delinquency, and then 5.13 in terms of unemployment. So this was done, I think, in the fall, this chart, so these numbers could look even a little bit different now. In fact, I think that especially for the mortgage delinquency, it's going to go lower. But I think this was a really good chart to see just the history from this going back farther, and that, even in the early 2000s, it was, on par with what we see today. And then even back in the late 80s, it was a little bit higher. So I just thought this chart was a little bit interesting. I wanted to show it to you. Okay, so to sum it up in terms of these foreclosures or potential foreclosures, as you can see, I don't think that we're going to be looking at seeing a lot of distressed properties hitting the market anytime soon. We could certainly see a slight uptick, but I don't think it's going to be as extreme that it's going to be a benefit in terms of having more inventory, or maybe because of it bringing down prices a little bit or anything like that. So I would say right now, don't look towards potential distressed properties in order to help you buy a house in the future. I've had at least one person in particular this last year that was really banking on that, and their offers they were putting in were based on the future of there could be distressed properties down the road. And I said, you cannot put in an offer based on the market from the past or what you're thinking is going to happen in the future. It's all on what's going on today. So right now, I don't think the distressed properties or foreclosures or short sales are going to be a big thing in 2022. Number 3, another question I get a lot is, will the interest rates increase in this next year? And then the idea is, if so, is that going to help with limiting what buyers can do, other buyers can do? Will it help reduce the competition with other buyers? And so these are really good questions. Well, like Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, again, that Mortgage Bankers Association and the National Association of Realtors are predicting that in the next year, interest rates are going to increase, but they're going to average somewhere between the four of them. They said somewhere between 3.3% and 4%. So now let's say it's the worst case scenario and it's at 4%. Historically, that is still very low. Now, I do understand that if you're a buyer, of course, you would rather purchase a property with an interest rate of like 2.75 or 2.9 or something like that, right? Compared to 4%. But really, in the grand scheme of things, 4% is still super low. That's a very good interest rate nonetheless. And then as we are learning with so many buyers in our area who are paying cash, I don't think it's going to knock out too much of our competition. And then there are still a number of buyers I know that are out there who could pay cash, but with the interest rates being so low, they were financing even part of it, maybe 50%, 60%, just because they were taking advantage of these better interest rates and not liquidating everything or, giving up all of their, or a good chunk of their reserves, right? The money that they have on hand. And so in theory, instead of us looking at 50% of our purchases being cash, it could really be more than that. So I think that even with the interest rates going up a bit, even going up a point, I think it's still just a very small ripple and a large pond in terms of what kind of impact we're going to see because of that. I don't think it's going to hit us a whole lot. Number 4, I always hear, it can't go on like this forever, Jill. Or I also hear, what goes up must come down. I hear that all the time, and I understand it. But I'll be honest with you, I don't think 2022 is going to be terribly different than 2021 in a lot of ways. Now, I have done my research. I've listened to different specialists. I've listened to podcasts and webinars to prepare for this. And right now, it appears like it's going to be pretty similar. Now, some of the things I did glean from these other folks that know a bit more than me is, number 1, they don't think there will be maybe as many sales as there was in 2021. That could or could not be true, but right now they're thinking that the number of sales are going to go down a smidge. Number two, they believe that in terms of home price appreciation, on average, it's going to go up 5.1%. So that, of course, means that some people think it's going to go up even higher. Some people think it's going to go up a little bit lower, but hopefully not as much as it has in this last year, which it has gone up considerably, right? You know, we saw that in our little charts earlier. So our median sale price right now is $400,000, whereas before it was just, you know, closer to $300,000. And then the third takeaway I've gotten from these other folks is, even though we're not going to see too many changes, they suspect that maybe in the second half of the year, there's going to be more of a cooling off. It's not that prices are going to go down. We're not going to go backwards, but things might just cool down a little bit. It's not going to be as intense as they are right now. So that is what I'm gathering from some other people that are much smarter than me. So that's what we're looking at right now for 2022. Now, of course, I personally do not have a crystal ball, and neither do these other folks. So it might be different than all of this. And of course, if something else happens larger on a national level, it can impact the housing market. And so these things would change, just like COVID did. Nobody, of course, predicted that. And that's kind of what was a catalyst for putting us in the position where we're at today. So of course, something bigger could happen that nobody's thinking about or aware of that could change these things a bit. And then the other thing too is, with so many people moving to Florida, and in particular the Sarasota area, even though our prices are going up, often compared to where other folks are coming from, our prices are still pretty reasonable. They feel like they're getting a lot of bang for their buck when they move here. And of course, with just our nature, you know, with our beautiful sunshine and the beaches and everything, they just see this as a perfect world for them. And so even though to many of us who have been here a long time, or maybe you've been looking to buy here for a while and you see prices going up, to people in other markets, it's still very desirable and still very reasonably priced. So it's all relative. It just depends on what your perspective is on these things. So as a result, even if some of these things adjust a bit, there's still a good pool of buyers out there who are looking to move to this area, who have, you know, deeper pockets, to be honest with you. So that's where we're at with some of these things right now. So in conclusion, I just want to say that I do really try to do my research on these things before I present all of this to you, but doesn't mean that there isn't something that I should have considered and I didn't. So if you have any other thoughts or maybe an experience, then please put it in the comments below. I really do want to have a well-rounded presentation. So if there's something I didn't consider, I would appreciate you letting me know and just sharing with everybody by writing something in the comments. I think that's a great thing to do. So I'm certainly wanting to be open-minded to everything. Now, I do hope this helped you to get a better understanding and kind of see a bigger picture of what's going on in the real estate market, both nationally and locally. And if I didn't say it already, please let me know if you would like to have copies of any of my research, the charts, anything that I might have. Please shoot me an email. That would probably be easier because I can just reply back to you. So drop me an email. My link to my email is below in the description, and I'd be happy to do that for you. Well, guys, 2021 was awesome. I appreciate so many of you so faithfully watching my videos. I just do appreciate it so much. I love hearing from all of you. I love talking to you. And if there's anything I can do for you in 2022, I would be happy to do that. You just got to reach out to me. So whatever I can do, questions I can answer, I am certainly here for you, and hopefully to be a help and an encouragement. So just like you are to me. Well, thanks again for watching. I appreciate it. Have a great new year.